The Matrix is being rebooted? What? Okay, now that there's been a bit of time to have a look at this information and break it down and not freak out as much about a reboot of one of the all-time greatest science fiction films ever made and some not so great follow-up sequels, we now have a bit more of a clearer picture of what is actually going on with Warner Brothers and this Matrix so-called reboot. So earlier this week, The Hollywood Reporter broke the news that Warner Brothers were looking into developing a film in the Matrix universe, and we're looking at sort of trying to relaunch the franchise of The Matrix, which is obviously considered an iconic science fiction film, which really reshaped more than people really realize now in terms of how science fiction films were made. Obviously, early 2000s, we got a whole influx of slow-mo, bullet time copycats that sort of came in trying to ape the success that The Matrix had sort of created. But even still, I mean, The Matrix was a film that not even the Wachowskis could properly follow up. It makes sense that given how much money the Matrix franchise has made, not just with the movies, but with, you know, DVD and Blu-ray sales and things like the Animatrix and all the sort of spin-off video games and merchandising that the Matrix has created, I mean, it really is a global blockbuster franchise. So it makes sense that Warner Brothers is going to want to look at this at some point and try and see what they can make from this franchise. I mean, there's a huge, very well-developed world that's sort of rich for mining. But the news broke out during the week that Warner Brothers were rebooting The Matrix rather than relaunching, and obviously being the internet got all up in arms and kind of freaked out, going, no, they can't reboot The Matrix, that's blasphemy, you know. It's like, we went through this with the reboot of The Thing, which turned out to be a prequel to the original John Carpenter film, but which in the end, I mean, you know, The Thing was a remake of a film from the 50s, so it's like, as usual, these things get blown out of proportion without anyone really getting a good grasp of what the film is actually going to be about, what the story is, and where the studio is actually looking at taking the film. And in this case, it seems that this is what's happened with this Matrix reboot news. Now, what we do know is that Zach Penn, who is a very talented writer, his biggest credits really are being writing the story to X-Men 2, which is arguably next to maybe X-Men Days of Future Past and Logan as like being the best X-Men films around and some of the best comic book films of all time. But he also did write the story for the Avengers with Joss Whedon, and has also teamed up with Guillermo del Toro for Pacific Rim Uprising. He wrote the screenplay for that, as well as writing the screenplay for Ready Player One, Steven Spielberg's upcoming film with Ernest Cline and Eric Eason. So Zach Penn is writing the screenplay to this new Matrix film, or at least write a treatment for the film, which is not a treatment, is not a screenplay. They're very different things. Treatments are sort of an outline of what the film is going to be, and you write the script based on that. Now, at the moment, we have news that Michael B. Jordan was going to be attached to this film as the star, but apart from that, we don't really know much else. All we know is there is interest in Michael B. Jordan being the star, and which is a fine choice. We just don't know what character he would inhabit, if it's a brand new character or if he's stepping into the roles or shoes of a previous established character in the Matrix universe. I think the biggest tipping point for a lot of people was the fact that the Wachowskis were not going to be involved with this reboot, which, I mean, makes sense, but I'm honestly not too fussed about the Wachowskis being involved or not. I mean, yes, they gave us that first Matrix film, but I mean, just given what we've had from them since, I mean, is it really such a bad idea not including them? I mean, from what we know, Warner Brothers still wants the Wachowskis to give their blessing to a new Matrix project, but I think The Matrix has the potential of giving us another great film if put into the hands of newer filmmakers with fresher ideas. But I mean, the big mix-up this week was really that everyone was convinced that this was going to be a reboot or a remake of the original, but it doesn't seem like this is the case. I mean, Zach Penn, who is writing this reboot, has said on Twitter, he's gone out of his way to clarify what's going on, to say that the words reboot and remake were from an article. Let's stop responding to inaccurate news. So the news that this is going to be a reboot, as often happens with articles on the internet nowadays, is news is getting blown out of proportion, and we're not really getting the crystal clear picture with what's going on at the moment. But it looks like, as per Zach Penn's comments, as he says himself, do I want to see more stories set in the universe of The Matrix? Yes, because it's a brilliant idea that generates great stories, which makes sense. Hollywood Reporter has even said that Warner Brothers trying to look at what Disney has done with Star Wars and try and create sort of a spin-off universe using the Matrix universe and its characters by having little spin-off stories, such as what Star Wars has done with Rogue One and the upcoming Han Solo film, these anthology films, and try and do something similar with Matrix and try and have these little standalone spin-off stories so we can get more adventures within this universe. Because as much as everyone loves Keanu Reeves in that film, and I love Keanu Reeves, you're never going to be able to replace him. But it's honestly better to have a story set within that universe, because I mean there's really no point in rebooting it, but there's absolutely potential to create new stories and have new cast members be a part of this universe. And it would be wrong to kind of just leave it at that trilogy that we got, because as we know from The Matrix, the one can be many. Neo is not the only one, there are others. So I think it would be interesting. I mean, there was the rumor that potentially this new Matrix film could be a young Morpheus film based on Lawrence Fishburne's character, and that's the role Michael B. Jordan would be playing. But we really don't know anything else beyond this point. All we know is that Warner Brothers is planning to relaunch the Matrix franchise with new stories set within the Matrix universe, which is something I would be excited for. A reboot, no, I would not like a reboot, but it isn't. That doesn't seem to be what they are going for, and it's again sort of a case of the internet blowing things out of proportion. So we'll leave it at this. Are you excited for the potential of having new stories set within the Matrix universe? Would you have been interested in seeing a complete reboot, or would you have just preferred the Matrix trilogy to have been left alone and left untouched? Let me know your thoughts. If you like this video, do hit the thumbs up button. Otherwise, leave a comment below with your thoughts on the Matrix and this Matrix news. If you do also like the content that I'm putting out, you can subscribe to the channel for updates on when I release new videos and content like this. And you can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter at Mono Report, where I do post on a regular basis with current movie news. Thank you and goodbye.